Have you ever truly felt it? That unsettling, chilling sensation that someone, or perhaps something unseen, is unfairly targeting you. It could be a quiet whisper behind your back, a baseless accusation spreading online, or just that nagging, persistent feeling that life itself seems stacked against you, playing favorites with everyone but you. This experience often leaves us feeling utterly vulnerable, exposed, and inevitably prompts the profound question, who truly stands ready to defend me when no one else seems to grasp the whole picture? It's a feeling that cuts deep, isn't it? This isn't about minor annoyances. This is about feeling fundamentally misunderstood, misrepresented, or even actively pursued by forces that seek to diminish you. Think about the times your integrity has been questioned without cause, or when an effort you poured your heart into was unfairly criticized. Consider the silent battles fought within your own mind, grappling with a sense of injustice that no one else can see or fully comprehend. This isn't just external conflict. It often becomes an internal one, eroding peace, stealing sleep, and making you question your own strength and resolve. The weight of unfairness can be crushing, transforming a simple day into a landscape fraught with unseen dangers. We build walls, we become guarded, and we scan the horizon for the next potential threat, feeling like we are constantly bracing for impact. The very ground beneath us can feel unstable when we perceive ourselves to be under attack. Whether that attack is blatant or subtly insidious, it twists perspective, making us scrutinize every interaction, every word, searching for hidden meanings or veiled threats. This constant vigilance is exhausting, a heavy burden to carry alone. We yearn for vindication, for someone to step in and clear our name, to right the wrongs that have been done. We crave that moment when truth prevails, and justice, so often delayed or denied, finally emerges triumphant. But how often does that truly happen in the way we envision? How often do human systems and human advocates truly see and address the full scope of our pain and the depth of the injustice? We instinctively seek solutions, don't we? We might try to defend ourselves, reasoning through the accusations, presenting our case logically. We might turn to friends, hoping their support can form a protective barrier around us. Sometimes we escalate, seeking legal counsel or public validation, perhaps even engaging in online debates to set the record straight. Yet so often these human attempts, while well-intentioned, fall short. The legal system, for all its necessity, can be slow, imperfect, and emotionally draining, sometimes leaving us more bruised than before. Social media, while offering a platform, can quickly turn into a double-edged sword, magnifying the very issues we hoped to resolve. Even the most loyal friends with all their love cannot always stand in the gap fully, nor do they possess the ultimate power to truly silence every adversary or mend every wound. There comes a point where we realize that the battles we are fighting, especially the spiritual and emotional ones, transcend human intervention. We begin to understand that a truly impenetrable defense requires something far greater than any earthly power or human connection can offer. It demands an advocate with perfect knowledge, absolute authority, and unwavering love. This realization, this profound internal sigh for a different kind of protector, guides us to a source of strength that King David, a man intimately familiar with betrayal, false accusations, and relentless enemies, discovered millennia ago. He faced invisible attacks on his character and very existence, and in his desperation, he turned to a power far beyond human reach, presenting his case to the ultimate judge. He laid bare his heart, not just seeking a temporary reprieve, but a fundamental, divine intervention, a complete overhaul of his situation from the highest possible authority. He discovered that the greatest defense isn't found in a courtroom, a viral post, or even a trusted friend, but in a direct, honest, and fervent appeal to the judge of all the earth. In a world now undeniably obsessed with fleeting likes and external validation, with every action and every word potentially scrutinized under the harsh glare of public opinion, injustice has taken on a chillingly new form. It no longer feels like a mere inconvenience or an isolated incident. Instead, it can feel like a direct, brutal assault on our very identity, a personal affront that threatens to unravel the carefully constructed narrative of who we believe ourselves to be. Think about it. A misconstrued tweet, a rumor spread through a group chat, a professional betrayal that undermines years of dedication. These aren't just minor conflicts, they are deeply personal attacks that leave scars, not just on our reputation, but on our sense of self-worth and belonging. We find ourselves constantly expending immense energy, exhausting our spirits trying to prove ourselves, to meticulously clear our names, to fight battles in the digital arena or the hushed corridors of power. Battles that often go unseen and unacknowledged by the very people whose opinions we seem desperate to sway. This relentless struggle, this constant striving for vindication in a world quick to judge and slow to forgive, it leaves us utterly depleted. We attempt to counter every false narrative, to provide context for every misunderstanding, to meticulously rebuild our image piece by painstaking piece. We seek out allies, hoping they will stand as a shield, believing their words might carry enough weight to dispel the shadows of doubt cast upon us. We might even engage in the digital skirmishes, hoping that a well-crafted rebuttal or a surge of supportive comments can somehow right the scales. But how often do these efforts truly bring lasting peace? How often do they genuinely silence the critics or heal the sting of betrayal? More often than not, we find ourselves caught in a cycle, chasing affirmation, defending our corner, only to find the accusations shift, the goalposts move, and the emotional toll mounts higher and higher. It's a profound exhaustion that settles deep in the bones, isn't it? The kind that comes from fighting a war where the enemy is often amorphous, the battleground constantly shifting, and the rules of engagement seem to change without notice. We carry the weight of these injustices, these perceived slights, these actual betrayals, day in and day out, believing we must be the sole architects of our defense. This modern cry for justice echoing through our social media feeds and personal anxieties is not, in its essence, a new phenomenon. It's a primal human longing, a deep-seated desire for fairness that stretches back through all of history. Millennia ago, long before the internet or even the written word as we know it, a king named David understood this struggle intimately. He knew what it felt like to be unfairly targeted, to have his motives questioned, to be pursued by relentless enemies who sought his very life. He didn't have a social media platform to plead his case, no public relations team to manage his image. His battles were physical, bloody, and intensely personal, but the underlying emotional and spiritual burden was precisely the same. He faced accusations, betrayals, and the constant threat of those who wished him ill, those who reveled in his downfall. He too felt that gnawing sense of injustice, that burning desire for someone, anyone, to see the truth of his heart and his intentions. But David, in his profound wisdom and deep spiritual insight, came to a startling realization that transcends time and technology. He understood that the greatest, most unshakable defense isn't found in a human courtroom, however just it aims to be. It isn't found in the temporary solace of public opinion, which can turn on a dime. It's not even solely found in the unwavering loyalty of a trusted friend, precious though such friendships are. No. David understood that when your life is on the line, when your character is under assault, when you feel utterly alone against the tide of injustice, the ultimate appeal, the truly impenetrable defense, rests solely in a direct, honest, and fervent plea to the ultimate judge. He knew that the only one who sees every hidden motive, every silent tear, every unjust accusation, is God himself. David understood that to truly right a wrong, to truly find protection and vindication, you must go directly to the source of all justice, to the one whose perspective is perfect, whose power is limitless, and whose love is unwavering. That is precisely what King David did thousands of years ago when his life was on the line. And that is a profound lesson that speaks to our modern struggles with even greater urgency today. This brings us to a profound truth, beautifully encapsulated in Psalm 17. What many might instinctively perceive as just another ancient prayer, a simple, desperate cry for help, is in fact something far more sophisticated, far more deliberate in its construction and its intent. Psalm 17 is not merely a lament of sorrow or a plea for mercy. It is a meticulously crafted legal brief, a formal presentation of a case delivered directly to the highest court imaginable, to God himself. David, in his moment of extreme peril when surrounded by enemies, facing false accusations, and feeling the very fabric of his world unraveling, does not simply whine or beg. He performs an act of astonishing boldness. He articulates his case with an integrity that is both profound and utterly captivating in its confidence. He stands before his Creator, not as a helpless victim merely seeking pity, but as someone deeply confident in his standing before God, actively inviting divine scrutiny, daring the Almighty to examine every hidden corner of his heart and every single action of his life. Think deeply about the implications of such a posture. In any human courtroom, a defendant presents evidence, states their side of the story, and then trusts the presiding judge to discern truth from falsehood, to weigh the facts and render a just verdict. David does precisely this, but his courtroom is the entire universe, and his judge is the sovereign of all creation. He doesn't hold back, he doesn't equivocate, he uses no flowery language to obscure his intentions. Instead, he lays out his conduct, not from a place of self-righteous arrogance, but from a sincere and deeply rooted commitment to walk in God's ways, despite the relentless opposition of the world around him. He is, in essence, declaring with unwavering conviction, "Lord, you know me better than anyone knows me. You have tested my heart. You have visited me even in the deepest shadows of the night. You have searched me thoroughly, and you will find nothing that contradicts my plea." Imagine, if you can, having that kind of profound confidence, that absolute conviction, to declare before God, the one who truly sees everything, whose gaze penetrates the deepest recesses of the soul, that despite the most intense scrutiny, despite the secrecy of night where our truest, most hidden selves often reside, he will find no malice, no secret agenda, no unrighteous motive lurking within you. This is a radical transparency, an audacious invitation for divine inspection that challenges us to our core. It forces us to pause, to breathe, and to ask ourselves in our own moments of profound distress and searing injustice, what is the true, unfiltered state of our heart when we dare to seek divine intervention? Could we, with the same unflinching honesty and courageous vulnerability, truly invite God to scour our deepest motives, to weigh our most secret intentions, and then to stand as the ultimate witness, testifying on our behalf? This powerful declaration is not about claiming a fictional perfection, because no human being, save one, has ever been perfect. Rather, it is about claiming integrity, about asserting a sincere, earnest striving to live righteously, to diligently align our will with his divine will. David, as his complex and often tumultuous life story vividly shows, was certainly not without sin. Yet, in this specific focused plea, concerning the malicious attacks and unjust persecutions from his enemies, he stands absolutely firm in his conviction that his actions towards them, and his overarching walk before God, were indeed just and honorable. This unwavering confidence in his own righteous standing, specifically in this context, forms the impenetrable cornerstone of his entire appeal. He understood, with a clarity that transcends generations, that he had genuinely sought to honor God through his obedience, and therefore, he had every spiritual right to expect God to honor that commitment and step in as his ultimate defender. He isn't praying a prayer of desperation born of unconfessed guilt. Rather, it is a prayer of confident appeal, a strategic declaration born of a clear conscience regarding the specific matter at hand. This crucial distinction is absolutely vital for fully grasping the immense power and unique authority behind Psalm 17. It is not merely a generic prayer for help in a time of trouble. It is a specific, highly strategic appeal to divine justice, meticulously grounded in a life lived, however imperfectly, in persistent pursuit of God's perfect will. The way David masterfully frames his prayer is truly a masterclass in divine advocacy, a powerful blueprint for how we might approach God with our own complex pleas. He meticulously recounts his diligence, his steadfast commitment to God's sacred statutes, his unwavering dedication to following the divine path. He then intentionally contrasts his own actions and his own heart with those of his adversaries, describing them with vivid, almost cinematic imagery. From men of the world, whose portion and entire focus is found only in this life, whose belly you fill with your temporary, fleeting treasure, who are satisfied solely with their children, and who then leave their abundance and their legacy to their babes, never looking beyond the temporal. He paints an incredibly clear, almost stark picture of their singular worldly focus, their temporary and ultimately unsatisfying satisfactions, placing them in profound contrast to his own burning desire for God's righteousness and eternal truth. This is not a petty complaint, nor is it merely a venting of frustration. This is a precise, factual presentation of divergent realities. He isn't asking God to simply feel sorry for him, to offer a comforting sentiment. He is boldly asking God to act justly on his behalf, to intervene directly, based on God's own inherently righteous character and David's demonstrated, albeit deeply human, efforts to live by his divine laws. It is, in its purest form, an urgent call for God to actively uphold his own divine order in the face of rampant human disorder, malice, and injustice. This radical transparency, this profound willingness to fully expose one's deepest inner being to the Creator of the universe, is precisely what makes Psalm 17 so profoundly relevant and powerfully resonant for each one of us today. When we feel deeply wronged, our immediate natural inclination is often to defend ourselves tirelessly to others, to meticulously manage external perceptions, to desperately seek human validation and affirmation. But David, through his inspired example, demonstrates a fundamentally different, infinitely more powerful, and ultimately more liberating path. He shows us that the most potent, most unassailable defense is found not in crafting the perfect human argument or in exhaustively convincing every single skeptic, but in the ultimate act of laying bare our hearts, with all their hopes and fears, before the one who truly, perfectly knows us. It is an act of deep, unshakable faith, an acknowledgement that God's judgment is the only one that possesses true eternal weight, and that his vindication is the only one that ultimately brings lasting, unshakable peace. When we bring our case to God with such profound sincerity, such unvarnished openness, we are not merely asking for his help in a passive sense. We are actively aligning ourselves with his eternal truth, directly inviting his boundless power to work decisively on our behalf. This prayer, this posture, is not passive. It is inherently active. It is a confident and strategic stance of faith, deeply rooted in the unwavering belief that God unfailingly honors those who earnestly seek to honor him. It fundamentally transforms our struggle from what often feels like a lonely, personal, and frequently losing battle into an invincible divine partnership where the ultimate, omnipotent advocate steps in to fight for us, not based on our fleeting perfection, but on our sincere, burning desire for righteousness and his unwavering, absolute commitment to justice. This profound, life-altering understanding changes everything about how we approach our own seemingly insurmountable battles against injustice, misunderstanding, and worldly opposition. It irrevocably shifts our focus from desperately trying to prove ourselves to others, to confidently proving the sincerity of our heart to God, knowing with absolute certainty that his defense is eternal, absolute, comprehensive, and utterly without equal. This kind of prayer is not a retreat from the battlefield. It is, in fact, a powerful advance, a decisive strategic move on the grand chessboard of life, placing our hope, our cause, and our very destiny squarely in the capable hands of the one who never loses. David, in his profound and intimate conversation with God in Psalm 17, doesn't merely ask for protection in some vague, generic sense. No, his plea is intensely specific, deeply personal, and powerfully metaphorical. He cries out, "Keep me as the apple of your eye, hide me in the shadow of your wings." This isn't just poetic language. It's a profound declaration of desired intimacy and absolute, unwavering security. But what does it truly mean to be the apple of his eye? This isn't just some quaint feel-good saying tossed casually into scripture. This ancient phrase carries a weight of meaning, a depth of biological and spiritual insight that, when truly understood, transforms our perception of God's protective embrace. Consider for a moment the physical eye itself. In ancient cultures, as indeed in our own intuitive understanding, the eye was recognized as the most precious, the most vulnerable, and consequently, the most fiercely guarded organ of the human body. Think of its intricate biology. It's not simply exposed. It's cradled within a sturdy protective bone socket. It's shielded by the rapid instinctive blink of eyelids, coated with a constant wash of tears to cleanse and lubricate, and fringed with eyelashes to catch debris. It has an almost instantaneous reflex that springs into action at the slightest hint of danger, protecting its delicate surface from harm. To damage the eye is to risk blindness, to lose one of our most vital connections to the world around us. Therefore, to guard something as the apple of one's eye meant to protect it with absolute vigilance, with every available resource, with the fiercest, most immediate, and most instinctual defense mechanism known. It speaks of something utterly irreplaceable, something so vital that its preservation becomes an absolute priority, an unquestionable mandate. When David employs this metaphor, he isn't just asking for God's attention, he's appealing to God's deepest protective instincts, asking to be guarded with the same microscopic, vigilant, instantaneous care that a living being applies to its own most essential sensory organ. He's asking to be held in such high regard, to be deemed so utterly indispensable, that God's entire being would instinctively recoil from any threat against him, just as our bodies instinctively flinch to protect our vision. This understanding elevates the phrase from a mere sentiment to a profound truth about divine concern. God doesn't just watch over you from a distance, like a benevolent but detached observer. No, if you are the apple of his eye, he is intimately invested in your preservation, meticulously guarding every aspect of your existence. His protection isn't generic, it's precision defense. It means that when an injustice rears its ugly head, when a false accusation is hurled, when a hidden enemy schemes, God's immediate response is not just intellectual awareness, but an active, visceral, protective reflex. It means he safeguards you with the same fierce immediacy he protects his own most vital functions, because in his divine economy, you are that vital. This isn't about human ego or self-importance. It's about understanding the immeasurable value God places on his children, on those who earnestly seek his face. It paints a picture of a God who is not distant or aloof, but intimately involved, personally invested in the minutiae of your well-being. He doesn't just promise protection, he embodies it, making you his most guarded possession, his ultimate priority. So, when the world feels hostile, when the shadows of unfairness lengthen, when you are unjustly targeted, remember this profound truth from David's prayer. You are not merely a statistic, not just one among billions. To God, you are the apple of his eye, a precious, irreplaceable part of his very being, guarded with an intensity and precision that defies human comprehension. This isn't just comforting, it's empowering. It's a call to move from a state of anxious vulnerability to one of confident assurance, knowing that the ultimate, unblinking eye of the universe is fixed upon you, scanning for danger, ready to spring into action. It means that even when human eyes fail to see your struggle, when human justice falls short, and when human hands cannot reach to defend you, there is a divine, hyper-vigilant defense system already engaged, already working on your behalf. This shifts our perspective from focusing on the magnitude of the threat to comprehending the even greater magnitude of divine protection. We move from asking, "Why is this happening to me?" to confidently declaring, "My defender sees this and I am precious to him." This unique and profoundly comforting metaphor also subtly suggests that our relationship with God is not merely transactional, a series of requests and responses. It's deeply relational, rooted in a bond so intimate that our well-being is intrinsically linked to his watchful care. Just as the eye is an extension of the body, intricately connected to the brain, so too are we, as the apple of his eye, intimately connected to God's heart and mind. Our pain becomes his concern. Our vulnerabilities become his guarded points. This understanding should ignite within us a deeper trust, a more profound sense of belonging, and an unshakable confidence, even when every external circumstance screams otherwise. It's a spiritual shield that operates not on our strength but on his relentless, precise, and utterly personal devotion to our safety and our flourishing. This truth becomes an anchor in the storms of life, a quiet reassurance that whispers, even in the loudest chaos, that we are specifically, profoundly, and perfectly loved, kept under the direct, unwavering gaze of our Heavenly Father. It's an invitation to lean into that truth, to find our rest and our courage not in our own abilities to ward off evil, but in the absolute, uncompromising, and deeply personal defense of the one who holds us more precious than words can express. Having just explored the profound intimacy and hyper-vigilant precision of being the apple of his eye, David's prayer then seamlessly flows into another equally powerful and deeply resonant metaphor. Hide me in the shadow of your wings. At first glance, this might simply evoke an image of seeking shelter, of fleeing from danger to find a safe refuge. And yes, it certainly is that. When life's storms rage, when adversaries press in, when we feel utterly exposed and vulnerable, the longing for a place of absolute safety, a sanctuary from the relentless battering, is incredibly powerful and deeply human. We crave a place where the chaos cannot touch us, where the noise is silenced, and where we can simply breathe again. The shadow of God's wings immediately conjures that image of immediate comforting cover, a sacred space where no harm can penetrate, a place where His presence is both palpable and profoundly reassuring. It suggests an omnipotent presence hovering over us, enveloping us in a warmth and security that transcends any earthly protection. This is the initial instinctive comfort, the immediate solace that this beautiful imagery provides when our spirits are weary and our souls are heavy with the burdens of life's injustices. However, to stop there, to see the shadow of His wings as merely a passive place of retreat, a hiding spot from the world's harsh realities, would be to miss a much deeper, much more empowering truth embedded within David's inspired plea. This metaphor, rich with biblical and natural imagery, actually speaks to something far more dynamic and transformative than simple shelter. Think for a moment, not of a fragile chick trying to escape danger by merely hiding under a wing, but of the majestic, powerful image of a mother eagle. An eagle's wings are not merely for flight, they are symbols of strength, authority, and fierce, nurturing protection. When a mother eagle gathers her eaglets under her formidable wings, she is certainly shielding them from harsh weather, from the piercing gaze of predators, from the immediate threats of the outside world. This is the shelter, the immediate, vital protection that keeps them alive and safe in their most vulnerable state. But her wings do so much more than just provide a physical barrier. Underneath those powerful wings, within that seemingly protective shadow, something profoundly vital is happening. The eaglets are not simply static, passive recipients of protection. They are being nurtured, fed, kept warm, and given the crucial space to grow. This is where their bones strengthen, their feathers develop, their muscles begin to form. It's a period of intense development, a vital training ground within a secured environment. The mother eagle doesn't just keep them safe, she actively prepares them for their own future. She demonstrates flight, she brings them sustenance, she teaches them, in their nascent stage, what it means to be an eagle. Her wing provides not just shelter, but also the context for empowerment. It is within that shadow, nurtured by her presence, that the young gain strength, learn to trust the one providing their care, and eventually begin to develop their own wings, preparing to take to the skies and soar independently. The shadow in this divine context is not a place of fear or weakness, but a dynamic incubator of courage, a sanctuary for growth, a sacred space where potential is realized under the watchful, empowering presence of the divine. This changes everything about how we perceive God's protection in our own lives, doesn't it? When we pray to be hidden in the shadow of His wings, we are not asking for God to instantly remove us from every difficulty, to magically whisk away every challenge, or to erase every single person who seeks to cause us harm. While He certainly can and does intervene directly in such miraculous ways, the deeper meaning here suggests something far more profound and enduring. We are asking for His active, nurturing presence within our struggles, requesting the strength and wisdom to navigate them. It is under that powerful, encompassing shadow that our character is forged, our faith is deepened, and our resilience is meticulously built. It is in this divine space that we learn invaluable lessons. Lessons in patience when justice seems slow, lessons in perseverance when the path ahead is obscured, lessons in unwavering trust even when our human eyes can see no immediate way out. The shadow becomes a classroom, a gymnasium for the soul, where we are equipped not just to survive the current storm, but to emerge from it stronger, wiser, and more capable of facing future challenges. It's a protection that doesn't just keep us safe from the fire, but enables us to walk through it without being consumed. When we find ourselves under attack, whether by false accusations, unfair treatment, or the general malevolence of a fallen world, David's prayer reminds us that God's protection is not a passive shield that simply deflects all incoming blows. Instead, it is an active, empowering presence that strengthens us from within, allowing us to face adversity from a position of profound, spiritual strength, rather than from a place of paralyzing weakness. It's a quiet confidence that whispers in the midst of turmoil. I may be in the shadow, but I am not alone. I am being nurtured. I am growing. I am preparing. This perspective fundamentally shifts our focus. Instead of agonizing over the sheer power of our adversaries, we can center our thoughts on the immeasurable power of our divine protector. We are no longer defined by the injustices we face, but by the transformative, empowering presence under whose wings we find our refuge. It means that the very difficulties we encounter, while undoubtedly painful, can become the crucibles in which God shapes us, molds us, and empowers us to not only endure, but to eventually soar above them. This is the profound truth of the shadow of His wings. It is not merely shelter from the storm, but the very place where we gain the strength to fly. Having embraced the powerful truth of being the apple of His eye, and finding transformative empowerment beneath the shadow of His wings, David then pivots in Psalm 17 to draw a stark and critical distinction. This is a moment of profound choice, an inevitable fork in the road that every human being at some point must consciously or unconsciously navigate. He contrasts the men of the world, whose portion is in this life, with his own ultimate burning desire for God's presence and righteousness. This isn't just a theological point. It's a deeply psychological observation about human motivation and the pursuit of satisfaction. It compels us to look inward and ask ourselves, where do we truly seek our ultimate fulfillment? What defines success for us, and what are we truly willing to sacrifice for it? Think about the relentless pursuit of what the world offers. We are constantly bombarded with messages, both overt and subtle, that equate happiness with material gain, social status, fleeting recognition, or immediate gratification. The allure of earthly triumph is powerful, isn't it? It promises a sense of control, a feeling of accomplishment, the envy of peers, and a temporary escape from life's inherent uncertainties. We chase promotions, bigger houses, faster cars, more followers, perfect appearances, all believing that just one more acquisition, one more achievement, one more validation will finally bring that elusive sense of contentment, that peace we so desperately crave. And for a time, perhaps it does. There's a fleeting rush, a momentary high, a flicker of satisfaction that comes with achieving a worldly goal. But how long does it last? How quickly does the shine wear off the new acquisition? How soon does the praise fade, or the envy turn to indifference? Experience, and indeed the wisdom of countless generations, tells us that these victories, while perhaps momentarily thrilling, are often profoundly hollow in the long run. They are like trying to fill a bottomless pit with pebbles. No matter how many you throw in, the emptiness persists, perhaps even growing larger, as the fleeting nature of their satisfaction becomes increasingly apparent. David observed this very phenomenon in his time. He saw those whose entire focus, whose deepest desires and highest aspirations were entirely tethered to this earthly existence. Their portion, their inheritance, their reward, was wholly confined to the temporal. They sought to accumulate wealth, to build legacies that would be remembered by men, to fill their belly with the transient treasures of this world. They found their satisfaction in the immediate, in the tangible, in what they could see, touch, and hold. They were content with raising children who would inherit their material abundance, never truly looking beyond the temporary boundaries of this life. This isn't a judgment against having earthly blessings, for God often blesses His children with much. The crucial distinction David makes is the source and end of their satisfaction. Their ultimate contentment, their final peace, was rooted in what they possessed and what they achieved in this mortal realm. And because their satisfaction was tied to things that inevitably fade, rot, rust, or are taken away, their peace was inherently fragile, their joy perpetually vulnerable. It was a satisfaction that could only ever be partial, never complete, always yearning for more, always susceptible to loss, always overshadowed by the inescapable reality of life's brevity. But David, a man who possessed immense worldly power, wealth, and renown, a man who tasted both the bitterness of betrayal and the euphoria of victory, understood that true and lasting satisfaction lay elsewhere. He knew that if his ultimate hope rested on his throne, his riches, or his earthly triumphs, he would be perpetually restless, forever chasing a horizon that receded with every step. So, in stark contrast to the men of the world, he declares his own ultimate profound desire. "As for me, I shall behold your face in righteousness. When I awake, I shall be satisfied with your likeness." This is not merely a wish. It is a declaration of ultimate purpose, a profound statement of where his soul truly finds its rest and its complete fulfillment. It is a fundamental shift in perspective, moving from the external and temporary to the internal and eternal. To behold your face in righteousness speaks of an intimacy with God that transcends all earthly experiences. It is a direct, unmediated encounter with the source of all truth, all love, all justice, and all beauty. It signifies a profound spiritual alignment, where his deepest being is perfectly attuned to the divine. And to be satisfied with your likeness isn't about becoming God, but about being so transformed by his presence, so infused with his character, that his very essence reflects the divine. This kind of satisfaction is not fleeting. It is eternal. It is not dependent on external circumstances. It flows from an internal wellspring, a permanent connection to the divine. It is the peace that surpasses all understanding, the joy that no one can take away, the fulfillment that remains even when all earthly possessions are stripped away. This profound declaration reshapes our understanding of victory itself. It tells us that the ultimate triumph is not found in defeating our earthly enemies or accumulating worldly treasures, but in discovering a satisfaction that transcends both life and death, a joy rooted in the very nature of God. It is a spiritual victory that makes all other victories pale in comparison, and all losses bearable in its light. This perspective challenges us directly, doesn't it? It calls into question the narrative that so often dictates our goals and aspirations. What are we truly chasing? Are we caught in the relentless cycle of seeking external validation and temporary gains, finding ourselves perpetually exhausted and ultimately unfulfilled? Or are we, like David, directing our deepest longings towards the one who alone can offer true eternal satisfaction? This isn't about choosing poverty or rejecting joy in this life. It's about choosing where our ultimate hope resides, where our deepest contentment is found. When our satisfaction is rooted in God, then every earthly blessing becomes a bonus, a delightful gift, but never the ultimate source of our peace. And every earthly trial, every injustice, every loss, while still painful, is viewed through the lens of an eternal hope, knowing that a far greater lasting satisfaction awaits. This profound choice shifts the very ground upon which we stand. It transforms our battles from desperate struggles for temporary vindication into opportunities to deepen our reliance on God, to refine our longing for His presence, and to cultivate a satisfaction that the world cannot give and cannot take away. It is the ultimate decision that defines our priorities, shapes our spirit, and ultimately determines the nature of our peace. This distinction, articulated so powerfully by David, serves as an eternal compass, guiding us away from the alluring but ultimately barren landscapes of worldly pursuits, and directing us toward the infinitely rich and eternally satisfying presence of God Himself. We've deeply explored the radical satisfaction that comes from truly choosing God as our ultimate portion, longing to behold His face and to be satisfied with His likeness, rather than chasing the fleeting triumphs of this world. This profound shift in perspective, this reorientation of our deepest desires, is not merely a philosophical exercise. It is the very bedrock upon which we can begin to actively engage with the divine defense David experienced. If we genuinely desire God's justice and His protection, if we long for His likeness, then the natural next step is to understand how we actually activate this unseen shield in our own lives, how we move from passive observation of His power to becoming confident participants in His protective plan. David's prayer in Psalm 17 was never a passive sigh of resignation. It was an active, strategic engagement with the Almighty. So how do we apply David's radical prayer today in the complexities and challenges of our modern existence? It starts with a deliberate, intentional strategy, a practical step-by-step approach to bring our current struggles into the light of His unwavering protection. First, let us consider what we might call the heart audit. David, with astonishing courage and unwavering conviction, began his prayer by inviting God Himself to scrutinize his innermost being, saying, "You have tested my heart. You have visited me by night. You have tried me and found nothing." This is not a plea for God to simply overlook his flaws. It is an audacious invitation for divine examination, a deep-seated confidence in the integrity of His intentions concerning his adversaries. For us, this means beginning our own journey of divine defense with radical honesty before God. This is not about achieving some elusive perfection, for we all fall short of the glory of God. Instead, it's about acknowledging our genuine efforts to walk in His ways, to live righteously, and to approach our current challenges with pure motives. Take a moment, in the quiet solitude of your spirit, to invite God to search your heart. Where do you stand in this particular struggle, this specific injustice you are facing? What are your true motivations? Are they rooted in bitterness, revenge, or a desire for worldly validation? Or are they genuinely a longing for justice, for truth to prevail, for God's glory to be seen? This internal examination is crucial. Confess any shortcomings you uncover, lay bare your deepest feelings of resentment or anger, and then, with newfound humility, lean into His grace. This process of honest self-reflection, this heart audit before the Almighty, isn't meant to condemn you. It's designed to purify your intentions and build an unshakable confidence in your appeal. When you know, in your deepest being, that you have laid your heart bare before God and sought His righteousness, your plea for defense transforms from a desperate cry into a confident, firm assertion of faith. It allows you to stand before Him, not on your own flimsy merit, but on the sincerity of your desire for His truth, a sincerity born from a willingness to be utterly exposed to His perfect gaze. It's a powerful, liberating experience, replacing the fear of being found wanting with the peace of being truly seen and understood by the one who matters most. Following this essential heart audit, the next critical step is to engage in what we will call the specific plea. David's prayer was anything but vague. He didn't offer a generalized request for things to get better. No, he articulated his case with striking precision, detailing the nature of his enemies, their movements, their intentions, and the specific ways they sought to harm him. He described them as greedy and proud, as lying in wait like a lion eager to tear. He didn't just ask for help. He laid out the facts, presenting his situation with the clarity of someone who believes wholeheartedly that his judge is listening, understanding, and capable of acting. For us, this means moving beyond broad, undefined anxieties and fears. When you approach God with your struggles, be specific. Name the injustice, the challenge, the adversary. Is it a specific person spreading falsehoods? Is it a systemic unfairness in your workplace? Is it even an internal battle with fear or doubt that feels like an enemy eroding your peace? Articulate it clearly, as if you are presenting your case to a wise and powerful advocate who is perfectly attuned to every detail of your life. Do not shy away from the specifics. God is not intimidated by the complexity of your situation. In fact, His omniscience means He already knows every detail, every nuance, every hidden aspect of your struggle. Your specificity isn't for His benefit, but for yours. It helps to clarify your own thoughts, to identify the precise points of conflict, and to align your prayer more directly with His will. Remember His character. He is a God of justice, a God who sees, a God who acts. When you pray with specific intent, you are not only inviting His intervention, but also actively reminding yourself of His attributes, reinforcing your belief that He is indeed capable and willing to step into your precise circumstances and bring about His righteous resolution. This kind of focused prayer is a powerful weapon, cutting through the fog of general worry and targeting the very heart of your need. It brings clarity to chaos and empowers your faith to latch onto the very details that often feel overwhelming. And finally, with your heart audited and your plea precisely articulated, comes the vital act of trusting in the unseen shield. We've already reflected on the profound truth that you are the apple of His eye, fiercely and intimately guarded, and that you are held securely beneath the shadow of His wings, a place of both refuge and empowerment. This isn't a passive truth to be merely acknowledged. It is an active, living reality that demands our faith. David, despite facing relentless threats and overwhelming odds, concluded his psalm with an ultimate declaration of confidence. As for me, I shall behold your face in righteousness. When I awake, I shall be satisfied with your likeness. His trust was not in his ability to see his deliverance immediately, but in the certainty of God's ultimate justice and His eternal presence. For us, this means that even when the injustice persists, even when the resolution seems distant, and even when the visible evidence of God's defense is not immediately apparent, we are called to actively trust in His unseen shield. This is not passive waiting. It is active faith. It is the courageous decision to rest in the knowledge that your defender is at work, even when you cannot see His hand, even when the world around you continues to rage. It means holding on to the truth that God is meticulously safeguarding you, preparing you, and working all things together for your good, just as a mother eagle tends to her young under her powerful wings. It means believing, with all your being, that His precision defense is active, constantly scanning for danger and perfectly positioned to intervene at the appointed time. This is the faith that overcomes fear, the trust that calms the anxious heart, and the unwavering conviction that allows you to stand firm in the face of adversity, knowing that your ultimate vindication and satisfaction lie in His unwavering presence. This active trust transforms your posture from one of anxious uncertainty to one of serene confidence, because you know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you are not fighting this battle alone. The Commander of the universe is fighting for you. Friend, we have journeyed through the timeless wisdom of Psalm 17, from the raw, unsettling sensation of being unfairly targeted to David's radical and profoundly effective prayer strategy. We've peeled back the layers of his desperate plea, moving beyond a simple cry for help to understand it as a meticulously crafted divine legal brief, presented with astonishing boldness and unwavering integrity. We've discovered the intimate, hyper-vigilant care signified by being the apple of His eye, a precision defense that speaks to our irreplaceable value in His sight. And we've also come to grasp the empowering truth of finding refuge, not just from the storm, but within the shadow of His wings, a nurturing space where we are strengthened, where our faith is forged, and where courage takes flight. Finally, we challenged ourselves to consider the ultimate choice, whether to chase the fleeting, often hollow triumphs of this world, or to find our deepest, most enduring satisfaction in the profound likeness and eternal presence of God Himself. Now, as our time together in this reflection draws to a close, it's imperative that we don't leave these truths as mere intellectual exercises or comforting poetic notions. They are meant to be lived, breathed, and embodied. In a world that often feels relentlessly unfair, deeply overwhelming, and frequently disheartening, remember this profound, life-altering truth. You are absolutely not forgotten. You are not adrift in an indifferent universe. You are not undefended. The very same God who heard David's cries, who shielded him from relentless enemies, who knew the innermost thoughts and intents of his heart, is your God. He is ready, at this very moment, to hear your plea, to examine your heart as you present your case, and to shield you with an unseen, unwavering, and utterly impenetrable defense. This isn't a passive hope. It is an active, living promise. His guardianship isn't a distant concept, it's a present reality. When you face that insidious whisper of injustice, that baseless accusation, that moment where life feels entirely stacked against you, recall these images: the vigilant eye, the sheltering wing, the ultimate, eternal satisfaction found only in Him. This understanding should ignite within you a renewed sense of courage, a quiet but firm resolve to step forward, not in arrogance, but in the unwavering confidence of being supremely guarded. It means you can face your day, your challenges, your adversaries, whatever form they may take, knowing that your ultimate advocate, your ever-present protector, is meticulously at work on your behalf. This changes everything. It means that even when the outcome isn't what you initially hoped for, even when the human systems fail you, your spirit can remain steadfast, your hope unyielding, because your trust is placed in a justice that transcends earthly courts and a love that outlasts all temporal sorrows. You are preciously guarded by the one who not only sees all, but who also possesses the infinite wisdom and boundless power to make all things ultimately right, according to His perfect will and His perfect timing. Let this truth sink deep into your soul, allowing it to become the bedrock of your peace and the source of your strength. It empowers you to navigate the complexities of life not with fear, but with a quiet dignity, knowing that your true worth and your ultimate security are never in question before the one who truly matters. Living with this profound awareness means that every day becomes an opportunity to exercise this active faith. It's a conscious decision to bring our heart audits before God regularly, to refine our specific pleas, and to rest in the unseen shield, even when the battle rages visibly around us. It's a spiritual discipline that transforms our anxious striving into confident waiting, our desperate pleas into powerful declarations. It empowers us to release the burden of needing to control every outcome, every perception, every moment, and instead, to place our entire trust in the capable hands of the Commander of the universe. This liberation, this deep abiding peace, is the true fruit of engaging with Psalm 17, not as an academic text, but as a living blueprint for divine defense. It allows us to walk through life's trials with a different kind of strength, one that doesn't come from our own efforts, but from the indwelling presence of the Almighty Himself. And in that strength, we find not just endurance, but also a profound, inexplicable joy that transcends circumstances. If this message has resonated within your spirit, if it has sparked a flicker of hope or deepened your understanding of God's profound care for you, then I encourage you to share that spark. Consider pressing the like button on this video. It's a simple act, but it truly helps this message of hope and divine protection reach other weary souls who are desperately seeking comfort and strength in their own battles against injustice. If you wish to continue exploring more biblical insights that empower your everyday life, insights designed to deepen your faith and strengthen your spirit, then I invite you to join our growing community by subscribing. And please do not keep this journey to yourself. In the comments section below, share one way Psalm 17 spoke to your heart today, one particular phrase or concept that offered you solace or renewed strength. Let's continue this conversation, encouraging one another, building each other up in faith, and sharing the profound, life-altering truth of God's unwavering defense. Together, we can create a space where these ancient truths resonate with modern hearts, where faith is strengthened, and where every soul can discover the courage to face tomorrow, knowing they are held in the unfailing, powerful hands of the Divine Protector.